Welcome back, everyone. We are thrilled to start our next panel. This is Mothers Running Businesses from Home. We've said it a million times, it's a bit like a broken record, but we are all working differently. We're working at home with our husbands, with our partners, with our children, with our teenagers, and everyone's had to adjust. So we're going to sit down with a panel of some moms in tech that are having to nurture their career and their families at the same time, and oftentimes from the same space. From small business owners to corporate team members, all moms are dealing with new challenges. So this panel is an amazing group of women. Monica Cravata, Vice President of Marketing at WP Engine. Christina Bocanegra, founder of Mini Market. Candice Hahn, who is SVP and Managing Director at RGA. And Joelle Vale, the Chief Revenue Officer right here at Capital Factory. She'll be our moderator today, so please enjoy. Ladies, take it away.
Thank you so much, Wendy. All right. Well, I have to say I'm beyond excited to share space with you ladies today. Christina, thank you. This was your submission on the panel, so truly, truly appreciate it. Monica, I know when my team asked me to moderate, they said to me, you are about to work with a powerhouse. So excited on the powerful words that you will share. And Candice, if anyone has ever either heard you speak or read anything you've written, you can absolutely tell that you're committed to making women successful and thriving in the workplace. So thank you for that. I am going to hand it off to you guys initially to do introductions. And if you could take some time, let's say about a minute, and tell everybody a little bit about your backgrounds, tell them about your family dynamic, and about your professional path and kind of the way that it's taken off over the years. So Christina, if you're okay getting started, I'll give you the floor first.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very passionate about this topic. My name is Christina Bocanegra. I am the founder of Mini Market and co-founder of Current Conference. I am born and bred Austin, and my husband, Michael, and I have two young boys, ages 4 and 2 years old. And in my past life, I like to say I was a teacher. I taught for 5 years in East Austin and in Harlem, and eventually made this shift to fashion while I was living in New York. And then when I became a mom, everything changed, right? Everything shifted, my priorities shifted, and the platforms that I built quickly became about motherhood and how to support other women. Here we are.
Awesome. No, and again, this is a voice that I'm glad that you've been able to kind of bring forward and that we're sharing space around today. So appreciate that. Candice, you want to give us the next introduction, please?
Sure. I love that Christina set the stage for us, so thank you. I am raised in New Hampshire, spent 17 years in the Bay Area, in San Francisco working, and then about 6.5 years ago, made the amazing move to Austin, and we'll never go back. I am a person who never really thought that I would end up where I am today. I studied chemistry and thought that I was going to go into science, and then realized that me being in a lab by myself was basically the polar opposite of what I needed in my career, and pivoted, started working in consulting, and then eventually ended up, now I work at a sort of a global product development and marketing agency, and I lead the Austin office. So was that not a path I had planned, but one I'm very happy with.
Awesome. And I'm sorry, your children?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I have a 7-year-old daughter in 2nd grade who's very sassy, couple of cats, and a very supportive husband.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Monica.
So great, Candice. So I am probably a 20 plus year tech startup marketer. And I came to Austin in 2003, and was actually consulting at the time and dabbling a little bit in songwriting. I'm from Colorado originally, and Austin just seemed like the place to be. So I met my husband. we built a recording studio together, and I had that little entrepreneurial side where we had that business going for a while together. And then we had our 2 daughters who are now almost 12 and almost 14. They're October babies. And when they were born, I was mostly doing stay-at-home mom. I leaned out completely and was focused on our studio. And then when the recession hit in 2009, we thought, you know what? This expensive little hobby of ours, maybe you ought to get back to work. So I went right back into tech and have just had this incredible ride here in Austin ever since, and have been navigating the working mom thing in a very fast-paced industry. So I'm excited to talk about it today because I'm so passionate about it. And I'm always looking for tips and tricks. So happy that we're going to all share those together.
Yeah, me too. And I'll just briefly introduce myself. I'm Joelle Vale. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at Capital Factory, and I am also a mama. I have 2 boys, and I have a 17-year-old and I have a 14-year-old that's also an October baby. So on Wednesday, he will turn 15. So just excited to share a little bit more about, what it means to do both and to be part of both, because it is something that all of us think about a lot and we balance a lot. And I think that we do it as best as we can. And that means different things at different times. So let me start off by asking a very general question. What does it mean for you to be a working mother, especially in technology? Is there anything that this, having technology and having this forum of technology, how it affords you to be a stronger mom? And Candace, I'll ask you to jump in first, please.
Sure. I think being a mom, well, first I'll start off with being a mom, which is moms everywhere get kudos because it's hard. It's hard to be a working mom no matter what you do. For me, it's really about, the working part is really what I do for myself to keep myself stimulated and keep my brain active, and to set a role model for my daughter, to understand what it means, to do hard work and to put something back into the world that has good. And I think the tech part, it was interesting as I thought about this over the weekend. There's some very basic things, which is I feel like being in an industry we're on the cutting edge has made the COVID transition a little bit easier. I mean, I saw my daughter's teachers really struggling with what I would consider, pretty easy technology in terms of getting, crisis school up and running. And I never would take it for granted that I could immediately help her and jump in because I understand what the tools are and I understand the platforms and things like that. So there's some very basic things. I also think, there's some sort of principles in technology in terms of the fast pace that we move, the agile approach, and always needing to pivot that have become sort of mantras for day-to-day life in this COVID world. Where you have to be able to pivot quickly and, things flying at you from left field that you never anticipated and sort of take it in stride. So I feel like being in an industry like this has, sort of given you the infrastructure and the way that I think about my day and the way that my attitude that I bring that is really helpful. And I think it's exciting to be able to show my daughter that, no industry is sort of off limits for her and whatever she wants to do. So,
yeah, I love that. I also worry that my children are showing me more in tech right now than I'm showing them. So that's always something to take into consideration, is that we're keeping pace by being in this industry, or else they may run ahead of us a little bit.
Easily.
Christina?
Sure. It's funny because I've never really considered myself in the tech industry until COVID hit. So Mini Market was an in-person event held at the South Congress Hotel where we are promoting small business owners, makers, creatives, majority that are mom-owned businesses. And we had 4 really successful in-person events, and we're gearing up for our 5th last April, which of course we had to cancel. And after that, it just sort of sat stagnant for a while. I'm not really sure what this meant, not sure how consumers were going to spend their dollars, if they wanted to spend their dollars, and how we could continue to promote our small business owners from behind a computer. So we played with a few platforms and eventually moved it to virtual. And the community has continued to show up. So that's one thing that I've learned being in the tech business is you can still build a community, which has been really amazing. I feel like there's a level of transparency now that didn't exist before, where the makers would show up and they'd have their beautiful tables and all of their finished products. And now we can really strip it back a little bit and share the behind the scenes, what it really takes to be a small business owner, especially in COVID times, share the struggles. We've learned that our audience really relates to the small business owners when they see a little bit more of the behind the scenes. They're really thoughtful where they're spending their dollars. And so connecting to these majority women and mothers, we found to be really helpful. So I'm quite honored to be on this tech panel.
The one that you created. So we're honored to have you. Monica, any thoughts around that?
Yeah, my story is probably similar to yours, Candace, in terms of just having this grounding from working in this fast-paced, the power of the pivot always happening with various tech companies. But it's interesting thinking about it now in COVID and how my family and my daughters have adjusted. They ended up, full transparency, really having to take care of themselves from 8 until 6. And all summer long without the typical help that I might have as a working mom in tech. And thankfully they were at the age where they could do it. But I think hearing me and talk about, WordPress and everything in my world for WP Engine, they ended up completely entertaining themselves and starting their own little businesses on Poshmark in the spring. And they've been obsessed with it ever since. And we now have this, every other day walking to the neighborhood post office to ship off some of the things that they've sold. So, it's kind of been a unique blessing for them and for me that they had something to do.
What's the saying? It's not about what you're taught, or more is caught than taught. I think they're watching. I think they're seeing. I do think our children are absolutely learning from us every day. When we had a chance to connect prior, we spent some time talking about when, a lot of you had mentioned COVID already, but I'll bring us there for a second, because I think that was a really pivotal time for everybody, but especially for moms. And what we talked about previously is it all got really hard all at the same time. And all of it required tremendous change management. We had to lean in more aggressively than ever into the workplace, because the workplace needed us for survival and for pivoting and for change. And we had to lean in more than ever as parents and really figure out what was the right direction, and calm our children too, because they were like, wait, what's happening? So, everything was heightened all at once. So I want to kind of walk that path with you for, a couple minutes. And Christina, I'm going to pull forward something that you said in the Texas Optimism Project. You said there were moments of fear, self-doubt, and guilt mixed with a sense of relief when our days were no longer rushed or filled with birthday parties and soccer practice. So although things were elevating, there were also things decelerating a little bit, which it sounds like you were observing both. So maybe walk us through a little bit on, what the initial, feeling of the pandemic brought to the family, and then how you moved past it, because this is not a one-time thing. This is an ongoing thing of how we move past. So maybe walk us through that a little bit.
Sure. As soon as the pandemic hit, as soon as lockdown started, we went into full-on survival mode. Our boys are younger, which, presents its own challenges. They're not independent, but we also don't have the pressure of school and all of those things. They were enrolled in a preschool, and I'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, there was definitely a sense of freedom that came with our schedules are opened for the first time in years. My husband's in the bar industry, and all of a sudden we had weekends together, and it was really lovely for a while. And then of course, as lockdown continued, and as we realized, the impact that this was having and how, and the uncertainty, I think it shifted quite a bit. You know, we saw a shift in our kids who were, you know, thriving on routines and really enjoying school. We saw a lot of regression there. You know, we had to cancel our mini market, and I'm self-employed. My husband is a contract worker. And so there was that immediate sense of, how are we going to make this work? You know, even financially speaking for a while. And, you know, I think that we tried to take the good out of it. We went on a few trips. We really sort of leaned into family time for a while, knowing we've been in these industries for a while now, and there's always ebbs and flows. And that, to us, it just felt like another sort of ebb at that point. But, you know, now 7-8 months later, we are feeling the effects of all of it still, because we lost our spot in the boys' school. And as any mom knows, you start that search so early on, you're on wait list, you've paid deposits. And when we pulled them from school in March, we weren't guaranteed a spot when we were ready to send them back. And a couple of weeks ago, we were ready to send them back and we couldn't. So we're sort of back to square one a little bit.
Sorry, ladies. I think I lost you for a minute there.
Uh-oh, can you hear?
Can you all still hear me?
Yep.
I think we lost Joelle. Oh.
Maybe this temporary glitch with Joelle.
Yeah.
Joelle, can you hear us?
Uh-oh. I'm good.
Let's see.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
We can.
Ladies, can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes, we can. She may not be able to hear us. Candace, do you want to?
Sure, I'll take that on. I feel like the thumbs up and the "can you hear me now" are like the most popular sayings in the past 8 months. Yeah, our experience was different than Christina's. The first few, I mean, it feels like a lifetime ago, but the first few, I would say month or 2 months was really, really hard. I work, you know, for a services company. And so I was, you know, delivering work to clients, and we had teams that were delivering work to clients and teams that were working remote, obviously. You know, there was a lot of uncertainty among the clients that we service. And so it, you know, and there was a ton of figuring out new ways of working. So on Zoom calls constantly. So the work day became very, very long without a lot of separation between work and home. And then, you know, at the beginning, so funny, I remember, you know, when they first were talking about work from home and it was spring break, and they first announced that spring break was going to be extended for 2 more weeks. And all the moms were like, what are we going to do with our kids for 2 more weeks? Little did we know, joke's on us. You know, that spring semester was really hard. I wouldn't even call it homeschooling. I think we just all decided that it was crisis schooling, you know, and I think the minute we realized that it wasn't about trying to replace what school was, it was sort of doing the best we could, and that, you know, the school districts were figuring it out. And luckily at the very beginning, we had gone to Barnes and Nobles and bought some workbooks for my daughter to sort of work her way through. So we were giving her some workbook stuff and some online, you know, the online activities and things like that. But the first few months were really hard. And unlike Christina, we didn't really make any family time because we were just sort of trying to figure out. And then once we got into a little bit more of a routine, you know, I think the key is setting boundaries for yourself. And so we'd say, okay, let's mom pause her work at like 5 o'clock. Everyone, we're going to go take a family walk. We're going to teach my daughter to ride her bike without her training wheels. We're going to like take a little bit of time. But the first, I would say, I don't know, month or 6 weeks was, I felt like the day just ran into night, just ran into day. I was connected to my laptop all the time, between me and my laptop and my daughter and her school. And so that was hard. But again, it feels like a lifetime ago at this point. You know, the good thing about pain is you forget it really quickly.
Well, thanks, ladies. I'm back. I don't know if you can hear me okay. Yes?
Yeah.
Thumbs up?
We can hear you.
Awesome. Sorry about that. Real quick, Candace, since you were talking, I want to pull forward something that you had said to Authority Magazine. You said it's very clear that our modern day work norms and expectations are at complete odds with parenthood. And if I just pause there for a second and we think about how parenthood is like smashed together every day, more prevalent than ever in the workplace, we have to fix this. We have to really fix this piece because it's not going away. It's coming forward even more. So maybe talk about some thoughts you have around that, around what needs to happen in the workplace for women at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had like a robust set of solutions. But, for us, some of the things that we've done for our working parents is just give them a ton of flexibility, to sort of manage their schedules as they need. And, we had some teams of people who basically said, all right, we're gonna, basically cut off our workday at 3 o'clock, and that's our family time. And if we're not done, we'll get back on at 9 or 10 or whatever, which is, it's not sustainable. But, we basically sort of gave parents permission to figure out what made sense for them, work with their teams, work with their coworkers. And, whether it was every single person in the company blocking out your lunch hour, or every single person in the company having no meetings on Thursday afternoons, just to give yourself like some time to do stuff, be with your family. But I think that we'll see a lot more flexibility. I think flexibility is something that will be here for a while, I hope. And I also think that it's probably controversial, but I also believe that we can be as effective at our jobs in less than a 5-day, 40-hour work week, particularly moms, because moms get their SHIT done very quickly and very efficiently because we don't have a choice. And I think there'll be more things like job sharing to give people an opportunity to, share a role with somebody, work part-time. And, this sort of new way of working remotely, I think makes that a lot easier to do.
Yeah, I love that. I really do. I think you're bringing up some amazing points. We do have a question from the chat, so I'm going to pull it forward and ask all of you to, maybe jump in here. And then Monica, I want to go to you next after this. But how do you all prioritize work and family during this time when it seems like the overlap is constant? So what wins is kind of the question.
That is a brutal question.
It's hard.
I think it's by the second, right? I don't know that there's an overall decision.
I mean, for me, like I said, that my girls literally were on their own for 10 hours a day, starting late March there. The week that we all went into shelter in place, I had a key team member leave, and then also a fellow person on our marketing leadership team left, and I was asked to absorb his teams. So it just became cray-cray for me for a long period of time. And then we had our annual summit planned for June that we typically have, 200, 300, 400 agencies and brands come to in person. And we made the call very aggressively that we were going to pivot and make it virtual. So we just had to figure all that out. I think the way that I found balance with family was that we were all together in the same place. And if I had been stuck at the office for 10, 12 hours a day, I think that would have actually been harder on everybody. And so even though they were seeing me in Zoom Doom, as we like to call it, for hours and hours and hours, like they could interrupt here and there, and I would happily take their interruptions, and we were still eating together, and we would take family walks every day. We got a puppy to make us all feel better. So then we have the puppy, and we find a lot of joy in Whitney the poodle, as we call her.
That's awesome.
So, you know, I can't say that I haven't been working really long hours, but because it's at home and it's with them, I don't know. There's something that still feels like I'm actually closer to them.
Yeah, I love that. You have always put together, I would want to say, like principles for a working mom and how to create more balance. And I want to give you an opportunity to expand on those a little bit and, you know, maybe just brush the surface, but I think people want to hear more over time. But talk about the 7 M's, please.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So Joelle's referring to Monica's 7 M's, I guess, as a marketer, and I felt the need to end my name, maybe have them all start with M. But this was a little sort of guidebook that I was making for myself. It was like survival way before COVID. And then I found when COVID hit that they were really poignant. And WP Engine ended up asking me to present them to all of our employees as kind of a resiliency toolkit. So the 7 M's are me first, remembering to focus on your personal health and wellness first, because as moms, we always forget that oxygen mask. 2 is mindfulness, where you can literally change your brain with just a few minutes or longer if you want, with silence or guided or whatever. I recommend Oprah Chopra or Mornings with Sam Harris or Headspace, or there's a lot of tools out there. 3 is morning pages, which is something I picked up from Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way book, if anyone's familiar with that. And it's meant to be a guide for breaking creative blocks. And it's 3 pages stream of consciousness every morning. But I've used it in business as a way to just solve problems, because you can't write about the same thing over and over again for more than a couple days, and then your mind gives you answers. The 4th is mantra, where I will coach people that the most important thing that you say all day is what you say to yourself. So come up with some goodies. And movement, where you can trick the mind with the body. So this is not necessarily exercise, but just do that. But this is where like your posture or how you hold yourself, or just any number of little physical tricks can change the way you think. 6 is maximizing. And this one, I generally say, please call me with your advice, because I suck at it. It's just tools and tricks to manage your time better. So yeah, I'm always in search. And then the last one is moxie. So this is generally letting go of the need for praise or approval or sympathy to really come into your own. And on the personal wellness part, this is my COVID hero.
You stole.
This is CBD sparkling water. Highly recommend it. And ashwagandha.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
Any thoughts around surviving and what's helping you cope so that other women can learn from you?
I mean, I think for me and for what I do, which every day, I mean, my day is filled with speaking to small business owners and sort of hearing their stories. And it's really empowering. I mean, we're all sort of in speaking to the community, I think as moms, we feel like at times we're the only one. And I think some of the good that's come from shelter in place and lockdown and the pandemic is we're all in this. And I think there's now a collective sort of like sigh of relief, like you get me, you know, like I can come to you and tell you I'm struggling or I need help or whatever it may be. I'm having a day or my kid's having a day, which means I'm having a day. And there's no longer this sort of wall that is up between people. It's just full transparency all the time. And so I think seeing the small business owners, the makers, who a lot of, they're not side hustles to these women. These are businesses that are either supplemental income or at times even they're the breadwinners of their families, and hearing how they're sort of moving forward in this time is inspiring and it's empowering. And so I think that's been really helpful to sort of get through. And on the days where, our boys are so young that we can have family time from 6:30 in the morning until 8:30 in the morning when they're up, or, and it's been an inspiring time where knowing that you're not alone. You know, we're not isolated. This isn't an isolated thing.
Love it.
Yeah, it's definitely been the great equalizer across all fronts.
Agree.
Sure.
Yeah, and I'll add one thought to that, which is you know, something that really helped me when we started in this and things were kind of spiraling and trying to put your arms around everything and just going back to the present moment and just being where you are. We have a tendency as moms to multitask in our minds and in our physical presence and in everything we do, and just quieting the noise, being present, being there for whoever's in front of us and being truly there, I think has helped tremendously. And Eckhart Tolle, the book, The Power of Now, great place to get on audiobook and remind yourself of that. It kind of brings your headspace back in a good place. So let me ask this question, because I do want to talk about the future of working moms, because the pandemic is changing that a little bit. I'm super interested in what the team's vision of, you know, what do you think is coming up next, expansion opportunities for working moms and women, and, you know, what industries specifically do you think might really, you know, benefit from some of the things that are happening today? Anybody?
Yeah, I can start. I mean, I think that, you know, I said it before, sort of the flexibility, and, you know, I think the sort of work from anywhere approach that a lot of companies are taking now, that I hope they will continue to take, I think will benefit moms who maybe want to, you know, work in a high-tech field, but live in a small town somewhere where there aren't a lot of jobs. So I think from that perspective, you know, for businesses, I think it's going to open up great talent for us. And I think for anybody, moms, dads, whoever, you know, I think it will hopefully be able to open up more ways to continue the career that you want without having to maybe necessarily sacrifice quality of life by living in a place that you really don't want to be in. So I think that's I think for me, something that's exciting. I mean, we love Austin, we're not going anywhere, but I do have, you know, a number of moms who may want to move out of the city at some point and move further away, and, you know, but don't want to sit in a car for 60 or 90 minutes a day. And then I think from a career perspective or from an industry perspective, I think there's a ton of industries that will benefit. One, I think anybody who's in tech or is an entrepreneur, has good startup ideas, we've all figured out that there's a lot of things that need improving in the way that we're living right now. So I think there's, you know, going to be a lot of really smart, interesting ways to engage with people, to deliver products, to have convenience, to get service that are new and interesting that might pop up over time. I think we've identified that there are major gaps in certain industries from a technology perspective. Like, I would say online curriculums have room for pretty significant improvement if your kids are using any of them right now. And so I think a lot of, you know, I think the software business is going to be absolutely booming with new, you know, either ways to improve what's happening now, or even just sort of new models and new little hacks. So I think that will be interesting.
Love it. Other thoughts?
Sorry, yeah, I was going to say I totally agree that there's really no turning back from what we're all experiencing right now. And once we have figured out a more convenient way of doing something, why would we do it any other way? And so, yeah, I would agree with you. There's going to be so many opportunities for technology innovators to look at everything that's not convenient right now and make it more so. And I think about going back to work. Like I don't even know what that is really, but I know that even a hire that I have to make right now, I don't care where they live. And I wouldn't have said that a year ago. Mm-hmm. But really, it doesn't matter. And so that is a beautiful thing. We've proven that we can do massive things, launch products, run campaigns, like WP Engine going through a complete reorg right now, virtually. You know, why not? Because we can. It is a little bit harder, I find, to collaborate. I don't know about you, Candace, but we do pretty well on Zoom. And so I think there are some people that are itching for the conference room again, but just to read body language, and even doing something like this where you can't see the audience and you can't read the energy of the room is challenging. But I think we're all finding ways to connect, and now you connect on the Slack channel on a virtual panel, you know?
Agreed. Christina, any thoughts around that?
I mean, for us, we're just learning so much about consumers and how they want to spend their dollars right now. And so I think, yeah, I mean, we're learning every day, you know, more and more about that. We were nervous that people weren't going to shop anymore, and they are shopping. And so some of the industries that we've seen do really well in our virtual mini markets are, of course, the beauty and self-care industry. Now more than ever, I think women are trying to find less extravagant, maybe less expensive ways to really put themselves first and take care of themselves. Of course, wellness, but people are they're really rallying to support small businesses and businesses that are, you know, eco-friendly or sustainable. We've seen a big jump in that. So I think there's a lot to be said for that industry right now as well.
Love it. I do want to plug, you have a virtual current conference coming up. So can you kind of share that with the group?
Sure. My sister, Sada Hussey, who is a publicist in town, we founded that in 2019. We hosted our first in-person conference in 2019 after attending a number of networking events in Austin and just feeling like there was a void where working motherhood landed. We would watch panel after panel of women discussing business and whether they own their own business or worked for a larger corporation. And it was, to us, it was this elephant in the room. Like, are we not going to talk about the fact that you're a mom? And we know that this impacts your day to day. And so we started Current Conference as sort of a means to fill that void. And it's really an intersection between motherhood and being an entrepreneur. We're here to have those conversations about being an entrepreneur, digital marketing, getting funding, all of the things, but we're not going to leave out the fact that we're moms. So it's really a conversation of growing our business, but also growing our families. So like everybody else, we had to pivot to a virtual platform. And so we're hosting our second conference on October 24th. I might be hitting up some of you to be speakers on that, just warning.
That's a fair warning.
Great.
So just a couple of things for everyone to think about, and then we'll kind of run through a last question. But you know, everything is changing. Sometimes I look at some of the changes, and I would ask this group, some of the changes that your teams made and that you made, could you have made them before COVID? You know, are they things that for whatever reason just didn't elevate high enough, or didn't, you know, get the attention that they needed? Because that is a lot of what we're seeing, is this ability for women to work from home. It was available for a very long time. It was just somebody deciding that it's going to be a priority now. And now, once the genie's out, you can't put the genie back in the bottle, right? Same thing with what you do every day with your team and the connection piece. I think us continuing to share is super important. So I'm going to ask everyone to give maybe their best recommendation for community for women and what to do and make sure that we're staying united. Any thoughts around that?
Community for women?
Yeah.
For me personally, I mean, it's you know, I've got a couple of different communities, but they're all more like personal to me. So I've got a very tight neighborhood community, got a very tight set of friends, and even sort of some of the other women leaders at our company have kind of gotten closer during this time. There's a pretty active, you know, moms group that's on Slack in the company. And so I think for me, it's actually about multiple communities for different things in different pockets. And, you know, you have to be open to it and put something into it to, you know, to get something to get something back out of it. But I've been wildly impressed with all of the different resources that have popped up and the people who are, offering to provide thoughts and guidance. So that's sort of what community is for me at this point.
Awesome. I do have a question that I'm going to pull forward from the chat. It's, I'm a working mom. This is Barbara Fernandez. I'm a working mom running a home-based business for 10 years in ed tech. How have you all managed the negative perception of working from home type of business running? I've held back growing the business because I'm just happy on the work from the home type, but I can see it comes with a lot of negative connotation. Anybody ever had negative connotation about being a working mom, working from home?
I haven't personally, but we actually did a survey within the company, and even though sort of work from home was an option, I think that some of the feedback was that prior to COVID, there had been a stigma to it, with kind of the assumption that if you're working from home, maybe you're not actually working, or maybe you're doing other stuff. Yeah. I think for us, it's critical that that stigma, it will change, because we're all working from home, and everybody realizes that now working from home doesn't mean you're sleeping late, taking a nap, and taking a 2-hour siesta, that it means, there's no drop in productivity. So I do think, somewhat surprising, there was some feedback that even though it had always been an option and available and widely communicated, people didn't take advantage of it because they felt a stigma. But I think that will be gone.
Embrace it is what you're saying. Embrace it and know who you are and what you do, and know that you're not, whatever anyone's thinking doesn't matter.
Monica's 7 M's, right?
Yes.
To be the mantra.
Okay. All right. One last go around before we have to close out here. I'd love to know, now that you've had closer proximity with your family, some of the things that they've taught you over the past, I would say, 6-7 months. What have been the major lessons that you've learned from your children?
I mean, I can go. I have 2 little boys who don't stop. It's been interesting. Like, we're in a big attachment phase again that we were sort of getting out of when they started school, and now we're back in, and it's, I think they're more attached, because they've been with me now every day. But they don't know, yes, they were in school for a little bit, but they don't have that sense of missing out right now. So they're truly, they're thriving at home. They're loving being home. Everything is exciting to them because mom and dad are with them right now. And so I think it's a little bit of just being present with them, being in the moment, because being in tech, having everything virtual, access on our phones at any given time, it has to be sort of a really conscious effort for me to be like, I'm putting my phone away. I'm not touching it. I'm not looking at it, even though I know the dings are coming. I'm just going to be here in the moment with these boys because they're present in every moment right now. And I have friends who have teenagers, and I know that's short-lived. So I'm really trying to just take it from them that they want to be outside right now. They're really enjoying just playing. And so for me, it's really getting down on the ground with them and just being in that present moment with them.
Awesome. Candace, 30 seconds. Give me your thoughts.
Oh, well, I think, the most important thing is just patience and making sure that we exhale from time to time. My daughter's very much in the come see this, come look at this phase. Yeah. And whether it's like something she drew or her Minecraft character, or it's a lot of that. So it's just like, okay, stop, compartmentalize, go take a break, enjoy the 5 or 10 minutes, and then come back.
Awesome. Monica?
That's great. I think that there's been a great lesson in resiliency from my girls. Really just the isolation that they've had, and just how they were innovative on their own and came up with really interesting things to do, I think is a powerful lesson. And something that was actually pre-COVID, but then was a good reminder during this time. Because, you learn very quickly as a parent on the need to know value. And if you take the time to set expectations with kids, it reduces meltdowns From everything like daddy's going to be out of town, or mommy's not going to be the one picking you up today, or like it just helps. You can avoid all kinds of meltdowns and chaos. And I think that communication is even more important now. And then it's a reminder back at work that everybody does so much better when they feel informed and involved and brought along the journey and not getting surprised.
So true. And we have to remember to have fun. For whatever reason, they show us that all the time.
For sure.
Ladies, it's been wonderful taking this journey with you. Thank you. I think we are, all of us are growing every single second. And even just today, getting additional knowledge from you has been an absolute joy and blessing. So thank you guys very much. I hope, Christina, that we all see more of these spaces in the conference that you have come up.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks for the invitation.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Great.
What a fantastic discussion. I think, honestly, my favorite takeaway from that one was we have 2 new entrepreneurs, thanks to Monica's daughters. So there you go. Fantastic. Poshmark, right? Fantastic. So we are now, if you have already previously signed up for Epic Office Hours, you are able to leave now and go join Epic Office Hours. If you do not know what Epic Office Hours are, or you have not signed up or attended one, these are sessions that you as a founder can go and get advice from a network of mentors that Capital Factory has, I'll say, on retainer, if you will. These mentors are founders, entrepreneurs, business and technology leaders themselves. So it is an absolutely huge opportunity to be able to go and just pick their brains. They do have them at every time there is a summit such as this. So stay tuned, keep your eyes out on email. And the next time there's a summit, I would strongly recommend going to attend an Epic Office Hours. So you folks are all off on your own to Epic. And then for those of you who are still staying here with us, we're going to flip over to the networking again. Again, that left-hand side of your screen, click there. You'll be matched up with someone new this time. And we will see you back here in 10 minutes. Once again, curate and grow your network. Take full advantage.